have Everton actually just saved their season by hiring Sean Dyche? Everton fans, put a smile on your face, guys, because I love this one. I love it. I think it's the perfect managerial appointment for Everton. In this video, we're going to take a look and try and answer that exact question by taking a look at how Sean Dyche will set up Everton and how it may lead to their Premier League survival. During Sean Dyche's 10-year stint at Burnley, they became a solid and reliable team who you knew exactly what to expect from. He managed a total of 425 games. Let me say that again, 425 league matches at Burnley. Experienced guy. And averaged 1.34 points per match over 10 years. Compare that to Frank Lampard, who only managed 1 point per match for Everton. Obviously in a smaller data set, but I don't think that's a negative on Sean Dyche. He's got a higher data set, and that means that you can kind of rely on him that little bit more. The big question about Dyche is whether he'll be able to do better than he did with Burnley or not, considering Everton, for the most part, have better players than he had at Burnley and also have more resources in transfer windows, but are currently a total mess. So how will Everton line up? So for starters, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Everton will be lining up in a 4-4... No. 2 under Dyche. Whilst he was at Burnley, it was almost nailed on that this would be the formation of choice. There were some times where he played a 4-3-3, but 99% of the time it was a 4-4. I've got to say it. It's a 4-4-2. Now, before looking at the tactical aspects of it, let's look at the personnel that we've gone for here, because I've chosen these players because their profiles, for the most part, suit what Dyche looks for. And again, another reason why I think Everton fans can be pretty positive about this new manager, because at the back, the main focus is being solid and resolute, with defending being at the forefront of their priorities. This is why Godfrey's been chosen, for example, instead of Mykolenko, although I do like Mykolenko, and I do think there's some similarities in terms of the energy that Charlie Taylor brought to Burnley, but you know, it's good to have that mix, but I think the defensive forefront, staying in it to win it, is a phrase that Sean Dyche likes to use. And I think with Godfrey there, the focus being on the defensive side of it, they may go for him. But we will see. That is one area I'm not too sure about, I'll be honest. And whilst at Burnley, Dyche would sometimes let one of his two fullbacks move slightly ahead of the other fullbacks. So we might see something like this, where there is a clear defender and then more of an out-and-out fullback on the other side. As centre-halves, this is an interesting one, actually, because it almost seems obvious that Dyche's pairing will be Tarkowski and Cody, and I think it will be Tarkowski and Cody. However, let's not forget that Dyche is the only manager that has ever made Michael Keane look good. So who knows what he may bring. It might be a bit of a Brexit renaissance with Keane back in the side, because he did get a tune out of it. One thing is for sure, Tarkowski will look a lot more comfortable and will play an integral part in this defence, and also marshalling the players in front of him. Onto the players in front of him, and the midfield pivot will also likely be Idrissa Gana Gueye and Onana, who will be dealt with the task of screening the centre-backs. James Garner could become a good player in this system due to his energy and passing range, but Dyche's midfields don't often get licence to go forward, and if a player can apply themselves, then they're going to be integral. So James Garner might be someone who starts to take part that little bit more. But this is why I've gone with Idrissa Gana Gueye and Onana, because I think they're going to shine in their roles, and Idrissa Gana Gueye sitting there so far this season, I think has struggled a little bit. So something that's a bit more, you know, not gung-ho, but it's simplistic in their roles, I think, for those two, and especially Idrissa Gana Gueye, could work wonders for him. Out wide, Iwobi and McNeil seem like the players Dyche would choose. It's a little bit more complicated, though, because for Iwobi, it's merely a matter of fitting him into the team. He's not suited to a double pivot, but has a good work rate and also offers a lot of energy. So I think you're going to try and find a way to get him in the team. Playing him as a right midfielder, more so than a winger, would still allow him to get on the ball and progress it when the opportunities arise, but you've still got that team player there in the side. I do wonder, and look, this is a bit of a rogue shout, but there could be a place for Andros Townsend in this squad once he's fit. He's still coming back from that cruciate ligament injury, I think it is, and that is, of course, a very difficult thing to come back from. But in terms of someone who wants to get across, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But keep an eye out for Andros Townsend, because he could play a part as the season progresses. On the left, it's either McNeil or Gray. Now, this is interesting because McNeil is a player who, of course, has worked under Sean Dyche before, but has also openly criticised him for forcing him to track back and removing the freedom from his game, which has been given to him at Everton, and he's really shone. So it's interesting to see if these issues can be patched up between the two. Otherwise, it would be Demarai Gray, but I can't see him being a player that Dyche likes. And maybe if you were to use Demarai Gray, it might be in actually a sort of role, but maybe a bit like Maxwell Cornet last year, off a big target man. Having said that, if Dyche wants to have an outlet in the team to spring counter-attacks, it may be Gray he goes for on the left-hand side. Up front, it would have been Danjuma and DCL, but that's not going to happen now. Of course, Danjuma's gone to Tottenham. So the question here is, who do you partner up top with Calvert-Lewin? The obvious choice is probably Maupay, given his Premier League experience and his ability to play as a second striker. And he is the French Ashley Barnes a bit, isn't he? He is, isn't he? Yeah, I think so too. However, I think Ellis Sims could be more of a Dyche player. Sims is a bit more physical, has that turn of pace, and he puts himself about a little bit more. He's also shown at Sunderland that he can perfectly combine with a strike partner in Ross Stewart, a big man as well. So it would be good to have options. And again, this is another one where Maupay couldn't get near the team. Now you can understand the fit there. Same with Ellis Sims. Same with a lot of players in this team. Okay, let's talk about out of possession, because this is going to look really depressing. But, it's a depressing situation for Everton right now. So this is how you're going to get yourselves out of it, okay? This is how Everton are going to set up to defend. And yes, it is depressing, but at this point, who cares as long as it's successful? Because one of the key aspects of Dyche's defensive setup is getting men behind the ball. This is done obviously to limit space, but it's also to ensure that shooting angles are really, really limited. Last season, Burnley blocked the most shots of any team with 509 blocks, which is amazing. But there's a reason for it. So the principle behind it is to obviously prevent the goalie being tested as much as possible, but also as a means of winning back possession indirectly and having a means of winning the ball without breaking your shape defensively into a press. That stops the opposition ever being able to get through you. Dealing with opposition midfields is also an important part to his tactical approach. Sean Dyche did a masterclass on Coach's Voice, an amazing channel. I'm a subscriber to their app as well. This isn't a sponsored video. It's just it's a really, really good channel, and I'd really like to work with them if they ever wanted to. No, I just love to interview some of the managers. I'm just saying it's an option. Call me. Anyway, in this Coach's Voice video, he talks about how a 4-4-2 can become flexible into a 4-4-1-1 at times. And the reason for that is to make the midfield congested. So we can see here that the double pivot deals with the opposition's eights, and that one of the strikers tries to patrol the space around the opposition's defensive midfield. So there are two different approaches to this based on the opposition. So Dyche talks about wanting the secondary striker to either be on the north side, ahead of the defensive midfielder, or on the south side, goal side of the defensive midfielder. So when possible, in the more winnable matches, the striker will be asked to be on the north side, but against the better teams that have a deep-lying playmaker, they'll want the striker to be on the south side to limit them as much as possible. So when facing teams who play out from the back, one of the strikers will remain on the north side of the DM, whilst the other striker moves towards the centre-back, who is in possession. If the ball's then played across, the roles change, though, with the secondary striker pressing the ball, whilst the 9 will cover the DM, as we see in this second image. So this gives the strikers a simple task that doesn't involve a high IQ for players, and it also doesn't just allow the opposition to move up the pitch in any way that they want. With a big focus here being to create corridors and to stop one half of the pitch being accessed unless it's a long, risky pass. Stopping the midfield when the ball is with an opposition fullback is also an important part of Dyche's approach. When the ball is with the right back, for example, as you see in the image here, the centre midfielder on the opposite side is going to try and lock on to the opposition's left centre midfielder. Lock on means get tight, mark tight. This limits their involvement and forces the play to remain on the opposition's right-hand side. To prevent gaps in the midfield forming, Dyche also asked the right midfielder then to tuck into the space vacated by Onana in this case, which then again keeps the centre congested. This is a role that Iwobi would be very, very comfortable with. The idea behind this is to force the opposition into those tight corridors of the pitch and to make it really limited when it comes to the space, to try and shut off as much of the pitch as you can. And lastly, the most important part of Dyche's tactics is locking off this part of the pitch when they're defending really, really deep. Now, Dyche calls it the V. Negating anything from happening in this area of the pitch is the most important principle to his defensive approach. This is to ensure that the opposition's best players aren't able to negotiate their way into high expected threat areas due to their likelihood of creating chances. So protecting this area and making it extremely tight is absolutely paramount to Sean Dyche and his team. Right. Out of possession, done, dusted, boxed off. Now it's time for the fun bit, in possession. And the big thing for Sean Dyche is playing it quickly, be that short passing or long passing as well. The only thing that matters to him is that it's done quickly. The reason for wanting to play the ball forward so quickly is to make sure that the opposition don't have time to set and create a barrier themselves, which in his mind, of course, is the big thing when his team doesn't have the ball. Working the ball into one of the double pivot positions in the middle third is a key focus of build-up play for Dyche. Again, as quickly as possible is the main thing here. The reason for this is to expose the opposition defensive midfielder. So, if Dyche's team break out quickly and the opposition midfield don't have time to set, then they leave their DM incredibly exposed. Dyche's system is designed to expose this weakness in teams who play a single pivot, which a lot of teams do. And the idea is to have both of their strikers lock onto the centre-backs, which gives the player in possession, Onana in this case, two options. This means that the DM can only cover off one passing lane, making it a lot easier for the play to be moved forwards and to allow you to get into a central area in the final third, which is an exciting place to be. But if it's not possible to play the ball into central midfielders, then that is where the long ball comes alive. Dyche has talked in the past about how useful Tarkowski's passing range is, and that is going to be certainly utilised at Everton. But what I think excites me, and probably a reason why Michael Keane won't be in the team, is that is a real strength of Conor Coady as well. He's spoken previously about Kieran Trippier and how you're actually wasting someone's sort of strength set if you don't allow them, if they've got the ability to play long passes, and that is a huge part of what Conor Coady is about. So the idea of using the long ball here is going to be utilised, I think, with Conor Coady, and expect this. I really do think that Conor Coady and his long range passing could become a real asset that they use consistently, a bit like Anderson at Crystal Palace. So the idea of the long ball here is to again bypass the defensive midfielder and to work the ball directly into a forward position. Early crosses are also an important factor into how Dyche likes to structure attacks. The idea behind this is to work the ball into dangerous areas without leaving yourself too exposed in transition. And with this method, none of the back four have to step out of position, but you still have an ample threat with two strikers going man for man against the centre-backs. And in this position, one of the two centre midfielders will be asked to patrol the edge of the box or to make a late run to cause more havoc, whilst the other midfielders stay that little bit deeper. This is a percentage method of creating chances. This is how Alex Iwobi may be used on this side with his good technical ability and chance creation abilities. He's going to be the player that Dyche tasks with finding those forwards. So in summary, it may not be the most aesthetic football you've ever seen, but Dyche showed for years at Burnley how this style of play isn't outdated and how it can get you results in the Premier League. And I know we were joking about it earlier in the video about the 4-4-2, but as Dyche says himself, a formation is just yardage. You know, your centre forward, your second centre forward is 5 yards further forward than dropping back, and then all of a sudden he's a number 10 or he's a little bit sexier. Do you know what I mean? So I think at this current juncture for Everton Football Club, they have to stop conceding, they have to start scoring, and this is a team that has struggled to score goals. And I just think the physicality that is in that squad, it's something I was saying on the Fallout for a long time. It's completely aligned with what Sean Dyche wants to be about. I think the two centre-backs will absolutely love playing with Sean Dyche in a Sean Dyche side, and I think it will help Dominic Calvert-Lewin to have someone up there with him. I think throughout this team, it makes complete sense to bring in Sean Dyche. And that's why I was amazed when Bielsa was being linked with the job, and they have made the right decision in my mind. I think he will galvanise the group. I think he has the gravitas, and he's a bit of an alpha, which I think actually the Everton fans will really enjoy and respect. As I've said, he's got that data set of experience to show of how to win games, how to sort of succeed, how to create the right kind of output from the parts that you have. And that's something, again, that Everton need to do. It's always the case with a manager when you leave the club that your sort of stock drops. You know, look at Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. He's obviously a wonderful manager. And so you have to just understand that sometimes things come to an end. And the last season for Dyche at Burnley was somewhat of a sore one, having been in the league for so long. But the crux of it is that those players were never really Premier League quality for the most part, with some exceptions here and there. And we've seen under Vincent Kompany how much he's had to rebuild the side to play his style of football, a different style of football. But at Everton, there should be a good base of talent that Dyche can work with. And if they turn up for him, it'll be hard to beat Everton. And that's what the fans want to see. Dyche will make Everton a horrible team to play against, and that would be brilliant to see from most Everton fans' perspectives. Dycheball and Moody Goodson Park feels like a match made in heaven, in my opinion. I think this specific signing, forget the January transfer window to a point. Look, if you can get a striker, then great. But trust in this guy, buy into what he wants to do, and just be ugly for a bit. That's what Everton need to do to stay up this season and to keep it moving forward. I think with this signing, they'll be absolutely fine. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it, do the other things that make it get views. That's always great fun for me. I love it when the numbers go up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.